Number 10. Brady Mystic. A deaf Colorado man who uses sign language to communicate said 2 Idaho Springs cops knocked him to the ground during an arrest, even while he attempted to tell them he could not understand their commands. Brady Mystic said he was unlawfully jailed for 4 months over the episode on September 17, 2019. He is suing the cops, Nicholas Hanning and Ellie Summers, the city of Idaho Springs, and the Clear Creek County Board of Commissioners. The suit says Mystic left his car and walked past a dumpster in between his car and the police cruiser towards a laundromat. He was blinded by a spotlight shone by the police. He didn't know what was going on or what the police were doing, or if the officers being there had anything to do with him. He stopped walking and used his hands to try to communicate with the officers. The lawsuit claims that with no warning or attempt to communicate, Hanning seized Mystic by the shirt and threw him to the ground, resulting in Mystic's head hitting the concrete. Officer Hanning pinned Mystic to the ground while he held his hands out with his palms facing up, attempting to show that he meant no harm and was not threatening the officer. Officer Summers joined in, gripping Mr. Mystic. Then she pulled out her taser and zapped him. Mystic tried to tell the officers he didn't understand by saying no ears, trying to explain that he was deaf. But it didn't make a difference, and Summers ignored his plea and then tased him again. Police said Mystic was taken to the hospital for an evaluation and then moved to the Clear Creek County Jail. The event was studied by former Chief Christian Malanka, and he said, "The officer's actions were deemed to be appropriate." Mystic was jailed for 4 months on charges of second-degree assault on a police officer and resisting arrest. Idaho Springs police said that Hanning suffered a broken leg because of Mystic's resistive actions. The charges were eventually dismissed, and Mystic was released. Mystic is seeking compensation for physical and emotional harm, as well as pain and suffering. Number 9. Nia Stevens. In May 2019, police in Waukesha, Wisconsin pulled 20-year-old Nia Stevens over for speeding. They immediately smelled marijuana when they approached the young woman, who said that she had smoked the night before and admitted to leaving a roach in the vehicle's ashtray. She also confessed to not having a driver's license. Officers asked Nia to get out of the vehicle, but she sped off and hit a telephone pole, causing a power outage. But she kept going, leading police on a short chase while hitting speeds as high as 90 miles per hour, 145 kilometers per hour, and narrowly avoiding a head-on collision with a squad car. The officer driving the car she almost hit outmaneuvered her and hit her rear driver's side, causing a flat tire. But the pursuit continued until Stevens lost control of the vehicle and flipped it over. She continued to resist officers while allegedly yelling, "Please kill me! Please kill me!" Inside the vehicle, officers found marijuana and some medication that's typically used to treat certain mental health issues. Luckily, nobody was injured. Stevens faced a slew of charges, including felonies for attempting to flee and reckless endangerment, and a handful of misdemeanors, including resisting an officer, possessing an illegally obtained prescription drug, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Number 8. Angie Frost. When Tulsa police pulled over a woman named Angie Frost in 2018 on suspicion of driving a stolen vehicle, she insisted she was borrowing the car from a friend. She claimed he had let her use it because she was moving and that she did not know it was stolen. Frost became tearful as she explained she would face years in prison if she got in trouble. But her pleas for sympathy fell on deaf ears to the 3 officers at the scene, who cuffed the woman's hand behind her back and placed her in a squad car while they addressed the situation. Police soon learned that Angie's friend had taken the car from his mother without permission, and then told his mom that Angie had stolen the car from him. Noticing that the officers were distracted, she somehow got her cuffed hands in front of her body. She then crawled into the driver's seat of the police cruiser and took off. Officers chased her to a nearby hotel, where she got out of the vehicle and ran. She didn't get very far before she was taken back into custody. Frost made news headlines for much more serious charges in 2020, when she was accused of killing 51-year-old Stephen Wood inside his Tulsa home. She claimed that the man had groped her and that she hit him with a table lamp to get him off her before another person came into the apartment and strangled him to death. But the authorities were unconvinced. They charged Frost with first-degree murder and 2 counts of possession of a stolen car for fleeing the scene in the victim's truck. Number 7. Abed Sultan. Everything seemed to be going fine as US Bangla Airlines Flight 211 began its final approach to Nepal's Kathmandu airport on March 12, 2018. But after being cleared to land, the aircraft flew past the runway. Air traffic controllers asked Captain Abed Sultan what his intentions were, and he said he wanted to land on the same runway from the opposite end. They gave permission, but the aircraft once again missed the runway. Sultan's piloting became even more erratic as the air traffic controllers continued trying to figure out what he was doing. He made sharp turns, causing the plane to bank steeply, and at one point narrowly avoided flying straight into the air control tower. The alarm controllers tried to cancel the flight's landing clearance, but by then, Sultan was attempting to line up with the runway. He touched the aircraft down haphazardly on its right landing gear, causing it to skid off the runway, through a fence, and into a field, where it burst into flames. 51 of the 71 people on board died, including Sultan and his first officer. An investigation revealed that Sultan was disobeying protocol long before he began flying recklessly and ignored the commands of air traffic controllers. He was flying on very little sleep, was smoking cigarettes in the cockpit, and was in the middle of an emotional meltdown. The captain had just put in his resignation and was upset by some rumors that his former trainee had spread among their colleagues. Investigators concluded Sultan was mentally unstable and fatigued, to where he lost situational awareness, and he was determined to land the plane at any cost, rather than regain his composure and make a more informed approach. Number 6. Marc Franconi. A woman recently claimed that she was held captive at the home of her partner, 51-year-old Marc Franconi, who allegedly kept the woman at gunpoint, threatening to shoot her and then herself. At some point, she escaped and ran into a neighbor's house, where she called 911. A 7-hour standoff ensued between police and Franconi, who barricaded himself inside his home. After hearing that Franconi had several guns, SWAT and crisis negotiation teams reported to the scene. Franconi repeatedly threatened to harm himself while drinking heavily. His behavior became increasingly irrational, and he wasn't going to willingly exit the house. The SWAT team barreled through the front door using a battering ram that was mounted on a robotic machine. Finally, Franconi came outside, but he ignored the police commands to keep his hands up. They fired 2 rubber bullets at him, and one hit him in the crotch, causing the suspect to double over in pain. He was taken into custody without further incident. Franconi was charged with felony domestic battery and aggravated assault. He was released while awaiting trial, but quickly violated the victim's order of protection against him, landing him back in jail while he awaits his next court date. Number 5. Nicola Cunha. Connecticut divorce attorney Nicola Cunha was disbarred earlier this year after she accused judges of favoring Jewish people and being involved in a Judaism-based conspiracy. A judge ruled she had made empty and malicious claims and ordered Cunha to turn over some paperwork and client contact information. He also noticed that the attorney had withdrawn $30,000 from a client account and said that an audit may be in order. In a statement, Cunha said that she had been disbarred for telling the truth and claimed to have evidence to back her claims, but she failed to provide it and is accused of using her ridiculous allegations to try derailing a bitter divorce and custody case in her client's favor. Instead of handing over the documents that the judge had demanded, Cunha disappeared. Nobody can reach her, and her lawyer claims they do not know where she is. A warrant for her arrest has been issued, but the state marshal assigned to the case is still reportedly attempting to serve it. Number 4. Banished to Siberia. Ukrainian intelligence officials recently claimed that Russian soldiers who refuse to fight are facing threats of having their wives and children removed to Russia's remote Far East. Their families are also barred from leaving the country and are being held hostage in the same way. The news came amid a growing trend of Russian troops disobeying commands to take part in the violence against Ukraine. Near the end of May, 115 members of Russia's National Guard were kicked out of the military for refusing orders. They appealed the decision, but a military court ruled that their dismissal was justified. There are also rumors that hundreds of Russian soldiers have fled from combat zones, and that military deserters are stripped, tied up, and taken away in trucks as punishment. It's becoming clear that Putin has limited support in his campaign against Ukraine. Even high-ranking public officials and politicians are voicing their disapproval of the invasion, according to Newsweek, which reported that Communist Party leader Leonid Vasukovich urged Putin to withdraw troops from the country. But for now, Putin continues to punish any Russians who speak against him or defy orders. Vasukovich was branded a traitor, lost his right to vote, and was even harshly criticized by his own party. Number 3. Drew Meskin. Recently, a man approached the gate outside Kylie Jenner's $36 million Beverly Hills mansion and buzzed the gate. He had been there many times in recent months and had an order of protection against him. A security guard called the police, who charged Meskin with violating a court order and violating a protective order. He was held on $20,000 bail, but secured his freedom, and he apparently couldn't stop himself from continuing to lurk near Kylies' home. Just a month after being arrested for violating the order of protection, Meskin was caught breaking into her neighbor's house, where he drank a beer and tried to steal some alcohol. He was hit with 11 misdemeanor charges, including trespassing and violating a court order. Meskin's lawyers claim that he's mentally unfit to stand trial, which isn't too hard to believe, since it's clear that he doesn't understand that a restraining order means to stay away and that you can go to jail for violating one. But he's just one of several men who has appeared at Jenna's doorstep over the last year, professing their love for her and even making marriage proposals. And Meskin isn't the only obsessed fan who failed to stay away the first time they were warned. In June 2021, a man who security recognized as a previous visitor reappeared. He had been cooperative in the past when he was told to leave, but this time he didn't want to take no for an answer. The man got combative with the guards and said that he wouldn't leave until he saw Kylie face to face. But instead of getting his wish, he was hauled off to jail. Number 2. Unwanted flowers. On Valentine's Day 2022, a woman received flowers at her Mount Holly, New Jersey home from her recent ex-boyfriend, whom she had been granted a temporary order of protection against just days earlier. The man was charged with violating the order, which banned him from contacting his ex-girlfriend in any manner. After getting the flowers, the woman told the police the delivery had made her feel unsafe, nervous, and like she was being watched. In court, the defendant claimed he had ordered the bouquet days before the temporary order was granted, but he also admitted that he did not try to cancel delivery once the order was in effect, which the prosecutor argued he had both an opportunity and obligation to do. The judge ruled that the man did not intentionally violate the protective order because it didn't exist when he ordered the flowers, and that he was also not obliged to cancel the delivery. But the judge also clarified that his ruling was not an attempt to diminish the impact of the man's actions on his victim, and he reminded the defendant that the order required him to leave the woman alone. Number 1. Reckless pursuit. Recently, police officers in Buffalo, New York embarked on a miles-long high-speed chase that led to bullets being fired, 3 officers and the suspect being shot, and at least 9 squad cars being damaged. They were pursuing 28-year-old Kenty Bell, who fled during a traffic stop on suspicion of having illegally tinted windows. After the first 2 officers were shot, the officer in charge called the chase off, stating, cut the pursuit, too many injured." But the police continued to pursue Bell for another 14 miles, and a 3rd officer was shot. 2 officers were treated and released, while another spent some time recovering in the hospital. Bell underwent surgery and was reportedly still in critical condition in the day after the incident. He was already on probation for a weapon-related conviction and is facing a slew of charges that could land him behind bars for up to 50 years, including first-degree attempted murder of a police officer. Channel 7 News ITU investigation questioned whether the case was justified in the first place, noting that the Buffalo Police Department's manual bans pursuits for suspected traffic violations, misdemeanors, and non-violent felonies. Police Benevolent Association President John Evans argued the officers were justified in going after Bell and that they were in the right for continuing a chase of an active shooter. But many find their refusal to follow orders questionable. Following the violent ordeal, Bell's probation officer and their supervisor were suspended from their jobs for allegedly failing to keep a close enough eye on him. Thanks for watching. Would you rather lose your job for disobeying a command from your boss that you believed was unethical, or find out that your boss was stealing from the company and take a generous pay rise to stay silent? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe. See you next time. Bye!